Greetings, I'm Kathleen Kapkara. I work at Trinity Church. I'm a storyteller and I love creativity. This is the third story in our small group series of Bible stories everyone should know. As you know, we're alternating between Old Testament and New Testament stories. This one is in the desert. The desert has so many stories of the people of God in it that we just needed a piece of it to help us tell the stories. The desert can be a dangerous place. There's almost no water, so it's hard for food to grow, and people need food. There's almost no plants. The wind blows in the desert and it changes the shape of the sand, so it's easy to get lost in the desert. People don't go into the desert unless they have a really good reason. It takes courage to go into the desert. Now, the people of God were living in a land where the rain did not come. And so there was no water for the crops to grow, and there was no grain to grind for bread. Everyone was hungry. The children were so hungry they cried in their sleep. And so the mothers and fathers decided that they had to go into the desert to a land called Egypt where they knew there was food. So they began to journey in the desert. It was a long and difficult journey. It was hot and dry. They just kept thinking about getting to the land of Egypt where there would be food and more water. Now, the king in the land of Egypt was called the Pharaoh, and the people did find food and they found water, but the Pharaoh caught them in a trap. They had to eat when the Pharaoh said to eat. They had to work when the Pharaoh said to work. They had to go to sleep when the Pharaoh said to go to sleep. They felt like slaves. One of God's people, named Moses, went to the Pharaoh and said, "Let God's people go." And Pharaoh said, "No." Many strange things happened in the land of Egypt. And every time something strange happened, Moses would go to Pharaoh and say, "Let God's people go." And Pharaoh would say, "No." Finally, something terrible happened in the land of Egypt. The oldest son of every Egyptian family died. But the oldest son of the people of God did not die. They put marks on their doorways from the blood of a lamb so that the angel of death would pass over them. This time, when Moses went to the Pharaoh and said, "Let God's people go," Pharaoh said, "Yes." The people were so excited. They packed anything they could carry. They needed to hurry in case the Pharaoh changed his mind. They wanted to make bread for the journey, but they didn't have time for it to rise and get all fluffy like the bread you get in the grocery store. Their bread was flat. It had no leaven in it. It's called matzah, and you can even see this bread and taste it today. When the people were packed up, they started to hurry. They were afraid that the Pharaoh would change his mind. As they journeyed through the desert, they suddenly heard the sound that they were afraid that they would hear. The ground started to shake, and then the thundering of the horses' hooves and the wheels of the chariot were loud and scary. The people hurried as fast as they could so that Pharaoh's armies would not catch up with them. But then they came to the water. Pharaoh's army was pressing up against them. They could not go forward, and they did not want to go back. They did not know what to do. But then God came so close to Moses, and Moses came so close to God, that God showed Moses how to take the people through the water to freedom. This one looks really scared. This one looks happy. When they were all on the other side of the waters closed up, and Pharaoh's armies could not reach them. The people were so happy. They couldn't help it. They had to sing their praise to God, and Miriam, Moses' sister, led the dancing. Now I wonder where you might be in this story. And I wonder what part of the story you like the best. I wonder what part of the story is most important to you today. Now you can discuss those things and many others in your small group.